You've probably heard all about how capable the iPhone 11 Pro's camera is, but today we're going to push it to its absolute limit. We've got the Beast Grip, which is going to let us mount a full-frame camera lens onto the phone, but we've already done this on past phones in this series, so for this particular episode, I'm introducing 3 completely new pieces that are going to help to elevate the video to a whole nother level. So first up, in this massive package titled Great Video Maker, we've got a slider, but not just any slider. This is an electric motorized slider, which means if we mount the Beast Grip on top of this, we'll be able to remotely control it, and this means you can do things like time lapses or just generally add a bit of motion to your recording. But there's more. To make the quality of the footage better, not just at nighttime but also in the day, we've got a spotlight, which should be a powerful light that can travel long distances, but also one that we can control the direction of. Oh, and also in the box we get a number of colored pads, so later in the video I'm going to attach these onto the light and see the result. This spotlight is actually made for DSLR cameras, but the Beast Grip we're using on the iPhone lets us attach it onto that. But then, to stabilize all this equipment, we've had to get hold of a top-tier Manfrotto tripod. This is cinema-grade equipment, and it is not particularly portable. Anyways, I spent a morning just checking everything, making sure it all works, and it was finally time to take the rig to London to test it. So, I'm now going to show you my top 7 things about this rig and what it lets you capture with a smartphone. I think it's going to surprise you. Number 7, with just the smartphone and the lens alone, it's impressive how cinematic the footage is. The first thing you're going to notice is depth of field. You get natural DSLR-like background blur, and this is pure optics. There's no software trickery at all. But there is a catch. The video quality itself can take a bit of a hit. The only way we're able to mount these lenses onto the phone is via something called a DOF adapter. And to use one, you've got to turn off the image stabilization built into the phone. And it also results in less light, a flipped image, and a smaller capture frame. You have to use a bit of digital zoom to compensate, and a piece of pro software in order to flip the image back to how it should normally be. And so it doesn't sound great, but the rig also has a few notable advantages. Plus, the accessories we're going to be attaching onto it, they're going to counter a lot of its weaknesses. So the idea was I was going to carry this entire setup to central London, where I seem to end up for every single one of these videos, and let me tell you, it didn't feel very portable at the time. But we got there in the end, and this brings me on to number 6, stabilization. Using a tripod of this kind of caliber gives you rock-solid stabilization, which means we can just plonk the phone on top, without the lens to start with, and capture London's skyline. And by accelerating this footage, it really exaggerates the contrast between the static parts of the frame and the moving parts. If we add the slider into the mix, things get really interesting. All of a sudden you can get these beautiful sweeping time lapses. The extra dynamism you get compared to just a static one makes footage way more engaging. It was also just good to see that whenever recording with the iPhone 11 Pro, I literally noticed 0 spots of overexposure. It does a really good job creating a balanced image. I even tried a slider shot using the phone's ultra-wide camera, and we managed to fit the entire shard into one frame. That's the tallest building in the country. If we bundle all 3 together, the tripod, the slider, and now the lens too, you'll notice 3 things. First of all, this looks amazing, in part due to the accidental black and red color coordination. The second thing is that, yes, this is clearly overkill. If you were going to get this much equipment, you should almost definitely just use a DSLR to record, but the idea here was to see what the upper limit was in terms of what the iPhone 11 Pro can record. And that brings us on to the third thing, the quality, because it's pretty high. This video is also partially inspired by the idea that a lot of commercials for smartphones that are entirely shot on these devices are done in a similar way. It's very rare that a company will literally just take the phone on its own and use it. So the message so far is not really that smartphones are now just as good as DSLRs, because to achieve this effect you need quite a lot of equipment, but we can say that smartphone camera sensors, as well as all the software that goes around them, are getting pretty great and capable of some stunning footage. This lens also has the spin-off effect of being able to pull focus while shooting from the background to the foreground, or vice versa. And now, low-light performance, which kind of surprised me. A combination of this lamp we're using and just a really capable camera on the 11 Pro meant that even though the lens attachment is limiting the amount of light getting to the sensor, the result is still pretty crisp. Even as the light dips further and further, the crispness still holds up. Even over the iPhone XS last year, this is a marked improvement, and we need to keep reminding ourselves here, this is shot on a smartphone. It was only a few years ago where the idea of shooting video in super low light like this on a phone was unheard of. If you wanted to do something like that, go and buy a proper camera, but here we are on the iPhone 11 Pro, admittedly pretty rigged up, but still, I think it's impressive. Also, just on a bit of a side note, if you are enjoying this video, it would be amazing if you could consider subscribing. I'm really trying to push the boundaries when it comes to tech videos now. I also had a play with the color filters we unboxed earlier, which sure reduce the brightness by a bit, but they create mood, and they work particularly well if combined with one source of white light. It creates a much more interesting frame than just having plain colored lighting all over. And now, one of the coolest perks of this Beast Grip system is interchangeable lenses. So for example, I could take this anamorphic lens, screw it straight in, and bam, we've got a completely different looking video. And I kinda like anamorphic. It's this super wide video format, and because of the way it works, you'll see that when we shine bright lights into it, you get this iconic horizontal lens flare. A lot of feature-length movies use this kind of lens. It's especially effective at night. Now, probably my number one favorite thing with this setup is photos, to which you might be thinking, what? But it's easy to forget that having a DSLR lens here makes every shot a portrait mode shot. Yes, the images are upside down when you're using the normal camera app, but the results speak for themselves. There's no software trickery, you don't need to worry about edge detection, this is real background bokeh. To take a look at some of the other ultimate smartphone camera rigs I've made, I'll leave some links from this video. Plus, if you haven't already seen the complete iPhone comparison video, do check that out as well, that'll be linked. It took like 2 months to put together. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.